I can't wait for that. Carrie, another thing I wanted you to get to weigh in real quickly on. The deputy FBI director is going to reopen a lot of these Biden-era investigation, the pipe bomb incident in D.C., the cocaine in the White House, and that big decision when it came to the SCOTUS Dobbs decision. You know, that was released before the judges had even finished their decision, but they released it anyway, and we still don't know who was behind that yet.
Lawrence, I was rereading the report last night, the investigation that the Supreme Court conducted into the leak to see what had happened there, because as you're pointing out, it was unprecedented. Yeah. And it breached trust between the courts and the American people in a way that we've never seen before. You know, I have to say the investigation was pretty thorough. They did something like over 120 interviews with 96 or 97 court employees. And here's the key. Everyone was required to sign an affidavit under penalty of perjury that they had not disclosed this opinion to anyone outside the court, anyone not approved by the court, with the exception of the 9 justices, which, you know, I do understand why that was the case. But those 9 justices also were interviewed. They did not have to sign it, which means that they would not be held liable for a crime should they have not told the truth. Now, I completely understand, though, why Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino are reopening some of these cases, because I think the American people are looking at these and saying, with respect to Dobbs, for instance, how could you not find the leaker, right? Yeah. Or with the pipe bomber, you know, how could you not find that? Or the cocaine in the West Wing, how could you not find that? Especially given the vigor in which you pursued everyone who was even a stone's throw from the Capitol building on January 6th. So I completely understand why they're doing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, Carrie. I'm out of time. And to that point, the justices can't be off limits either. If you can wheel in the president of the United States at the time, Joe Biden, and they did it to a former president, members of Congress are interviewed by the FBI all the time, then the justices can't be off limits as well. They should be interviewed as well. So hopefully they get to the bottom of this. I'm sure you're going to be covering it as more information comes out. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks, Lawrence.
You got it. So just one day.
Trump was right. I mean, he did make a fortune from China, and Joe Biden was wrong. $4 million in income in 2017 and $2.2 million in income in 2018, most of which came from Chinese or Ukrainian interests. But this directly goes against what Joe Biden said in the debate in 2020 with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about what are you talking about? China.
Once you none of that is true. He made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
So it's from 2 different debates, but I mean, Trump was right. I mean, he did make a fortune from China, and Joe Biden was wrong.
By Republicans. In a social media post, President Trump wrote, "Whoever had control of the auto pen is looking to be a bigger and bigger scandal by the moment." Aisha Hasni reporting in Washington. Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you, Harris. So that's right. Oversight Committee Chairman Comer tells me that his committee is ready to drop those subpoenas within minutes if former President Biden's doctor and those 4 other staffers do not respond to his request for an interview by tomorrow's deadline. Comer is also telling me that he's willing to expand those summons to include former First Lady Jill Biden, their son, Hunter Biden, and former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, if that is where the committee's investigation leads them.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey.
Why this beat so
We will make America proud again. If you try to we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
We were delayed in getting some information from the administration. I mean, we kind of knew because we have eyes and we can see. The American people saw it, obviously, throughout his presidency, even before the presidency. But the administration, the former administration officials, have this new line of defense. I was raised, when you say an apology, you don't say but. But they say they did it but because that they were fearful of democracy and Donald Trump. Meanwhile, they did something that was totally undemocratic, which had non-elected officials running the country. So the Obama bros got together, and this is what they said on the podcast. Watch.
We went to the White House and saw Joe Biden, who had just come back from a trip, and he was, I don't think it wasn't as I think egregious as what you hear in the audio around the Her report.
This was April of 2024.
It was April, and he was rambling, and he was hard to follow, and he repeated a story. But then we were assured by people around him that he was just exhausted. I remember feeling, I want to talk about this as a huge liability. I want to talk about this as something Joe Biden can overcome. But I'm not going to go so far as to say, I think Joe Biden must drop out. He is too old to be president. A, because I didn't know exactly what was going on behind the scenes. But B, if Joe Biden is the candidate, I want him to win because I care about the country.
So I guess this is kind of helpful in that it reaches new people and exposes the story to new people that maybe we haven't been reaching ourselves. But it is kind of amazing to sit back now and think 4 years. I mean, if you read like this book, this new book out, Original Sin by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, if you read that book today, for us, it's completely boring. Yeah. It's like you could boil it down to 2 pages, and it's like reading transcripts from everything that we've been talking about for the past 4 years. But you know, and of course, the biggest problem of all is that so many reporters like Jake Tapper and even Alex Thompson to some degree had spent that exact same 4 years trying to stamp out these stories and prevent people from hearing those stories.
So that soundbite was John Lovett. He was a former Obama speechwriter, and he was on with Jon Stewart, and he was basically saying we didn't care if this was the worst candidate ever. We were going to do whatever it took to win. And you mentioned the book. Alex Thompson was on with Shannon Bream over the weekend, and he talked about how they had just this cadre of handlers and aides that were running things behind the scenes, people that weren't even elected. Listen.
In the book, you quote a longtime Biden aide basically admitting he shouldn't be running again. They said to you on page 85, he just had to win, and then he could disappear for 4 years. He'd only have to show proof of life every once in a while.
Just had to win.
His aides could pick up the slack. Who would have been running the White House in a second Biden term?
Well, this person went on to say that when you're voting for a president, you're voting for the aides around him. But these aides were not even Senate-confirmed aides. These are White House aides. These were unelected people. And one of the things that really, I think, comes out in our reporting here is that if you believe, and I think a lot of these people do sincerely believe that Donald Trump was and is an existential threat to democracy, you can rationalize anything, including sometimes doing undemocratic things, which I think is what this person is talking about.
I mean, this is clearly elder abuse. I mean, they literally are saying, we just need, just as long as he's alive, we'll keep propping him up. But I think it's the latter part of the conversation that deserves the investigation, which is the concession that, Ainsley, they knew the entire time, but they didn't want us to know about it. I think that part deserves hearings to figure out all the people in the cabinet that were doing the propping up.
Absolutely. And for someone to tell those authors he'd only have to show proof of life every once in a while. Yeah. This is the president of the United States. Imagine yesterday, Memorial Day. Imagine if you're a Gold Star family and you lost your loved one, your child, let's say, because of Afghanistan, perfect example, under Joe Biden's administration. How upset would you be when the person in charge can't even run the show? People who weren't elected behind the scenes. We don't know them all. We're running the show, running the country.
People ought to be arrested, man.
He's commander in chief. That title means something. You're commander in chief. And there's only one. And you get elected. That's what it's all about. And after all these years of us getting lectured about democracy, and I think you're exactly
right. Our sweet apple pie democracy. Oh, man. The biggest scandal in American history. Spit on the people, lied to the people, couldn't tell the truth. The media, the enemy of the people. Conspiracy theorists, undefeated. You know, dragged us through the mud. Here we are. Russia, Russia, Russia! Laptop out in the middle of the street. Crack cocaine. All through the White House. White House completely hijacked. There's a pistol on the dresser with one in the chamber. Don't know what to expect next. Yeah. Somebody's in the bathroom getting a blowjob.
Lawrence, it's not about Joe Biden.
No.
It's about everybody that was using him and using and basically overriding our democracy in order to exercise their own power, even though none of them were elected.
I have to be honest. I'm so sorry, Ainsley.
Go ahead.
I was upset with Joe Biden for a while about all of this because I'm like, you should do the right thing for the country. It's clear here. But judging by the book and all the accounts, no one told Joe Biden that he was in decline. Everyone hit it. All the accounts show that not only his family, but all the staffers. And then you put yourself with the elderly people that have been in our lives, that we had to take the keys away. They're all in denial about it, but you make the right decision for them and you say, hey, this is what's going on. We got to do this. We love you. We're going to be with you every step of the way. At no point does it say in the book or any of the accounts that they told the president things are bad now.
Yeah, they had a responsibility to do that, and especially for the American people and for our troops.
For Joe Biden and several key staffers. They may all face subpoenas if they do not comply by tomorrow. So now there's a deadline to this. So there's a ramp up now by Republicans. In a social media post, President Trump wrote, whoever had control of the auto pen is looking to be a bigger and bigger scandal by the moment. Aisha Hasni reporting in Washington. Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you, Harris. So that's right. Oversight Committee Chairman Comer tells me that his committee is ready to drop those subpoenas within minutes if former President Biden's doctor and those 4 other staffers do not respond to his request for an interview by tomorrow's deadline. Comer is also telling me that he's willing to expand those summons to include former First Lady Jill Biden, their son, Hunter Biden, and former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, if that is where the committee's investigation leads them.
Get him.
Obviously, we're interested in the Jean-Pierre. We're interested in people like Ian
Big
Sams.
binder.
We're also interested in Jill.
She's still walking around with that big old binder?
Biden and Hunter Biden. So, but first step is bring these lower level employees in. We believe these employees that most people have never heard of had a huge amount of influence in the use of the auto pen.
So several folks from Biden's Oval Office inner circle have stayed quiet amid the cover-up allegations, but they're still active out there. Ron Klain is now Airbnb's chief legal officer. Anita Dunn now works with the super PAC Future Forward. Mike Donnellan is a Harvard fellow, and Bob Bauer teaches at NYU Law. And we're told that don't rule these people out as well. They could also be interviewed. If the committee does find any wrongdoing in their investigation, Harris, and Chairman Comer says that he would send criminal referrals to AG Pam Bondi. So stay tuned. Harris.
We will. Aisha, thank you. Jason Chaffetz, now Fox News contributor, former Utah congressman, who also chaired the House Oversight Committee, which is leading this effort now. This feels like it's right on time. Keep the press on. Your take.
Yeah, Chairman Comer is doing this the right way. You got to bring in the underlying employees. You start getting them on the record under oath, telling us who, how, who authorized this, who was allowed to put in it, who was in the chain of custody of these documents. It is the most powerful thing you have, the signature of the President of the United States. Yeah. And I want to highlight something. The pardon for the Biden family is distinctly different. I have looked at all of these, and I am telling you that looks like Joe Biden personally signed the ones for his family. But so many of these others, literally thousands of pardons and other documents, appear to all be on an auto pen. So who authorized that? Comer's going to figure that out.
So that's so interesting because you would know about this device. I've been doing some research. Barack Obama reportedly used an auto pen to sign the Patriot Act extension while he was traveling in France. That was in 2011. And we know that it's been used by other presidents. But what you're saying is there's a way to tell the difference?
Yeah, you can look at the signatures itself, and you want to go through. And the staffers that were put up on the screen, those really are highlighted. The other thing that's different than, for instance, when I was chairman, is you have a president in Donald Trump who actually wants justice, and the one to actually enforce. If the subpoena, you're only as good as your subpoena as your ability to enforce it. The person who would be in charge of actually enforcing that subpoena would be the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, who is Jeanine Pirro. And if anybody thinks that she's going to be bashful in not prosecuting and enforcing these subpoenas, oh my goodness, they haven't met her yet.
No. But we know her well, and what we do know about the situation too. It's so interesting. Look at the timing of her coming on board now, and this is now really heating up. And Republicans are leaning in. I know I've been wanting, from the journalist perspective, as we hear all these books dropping and everything else, how can you not want more information? And we as journalists can only do so much.
Yeah. Daddy can't fix these issues. I'm ready for somebody to be walked out with their hands behind their back.